All right, so if we have a result, it's going to return something. If we don't, it's going to return false. So this is where we're going to say else like this, or we can put it like that. So here we'll tell it to return something. Let's return false as well here. So keep in mind that what we're returning here is going to go here from this evaluate result. So if it's empty, if it's not empty, do that, or else this is the one. So what we could do, instead of return that one, let's return the error, so that if we have no errors, then we have something empty here. Now, since in either case we need to return the error anyway, so we don't have to write this else statement at all, we can simply say if result return, we're going to return something in here. If not, we're going to return the error right there. Okay, and then it turns out we don't actually need this particular function. We can do everything in the evaluate. So let me just copy this and replace that with evaluate, and then I can delete this one so that this becomes the evaluate function, and this data is the data that we are passing in from the post on the login page. Okay, so now if we do get a result, it's going to be the first result in the array, because we know we are limiting it to 1, so we are sure it's going to be one result. So I'm going to say we're going to call the result a row of data. So we're going to say row is equal to result, and since it's the first location in the array, we're going to do that. So now we are assigning the first item in the list to this one, because what this is returning is a list of rows which are put inside one array. Okay, so we are getting the first result here and putting it in the row. So now what we could do, because we are checking to see, we already know the email is equal to that. Now we want to check if the password is also correct. So we're going to say if password is equal to the password in the row, like this, because that's what the column is called in the database. It's called password. So if this one is equal to that, so which means that is also correct. So we've checked if the email column is equal to the email supplied by the user, and then we check if the password is also correct. Now the reason why I don't check both here, I could check both of them in one query, is because sometimes people could use an SQL attack. So this is much safer to check them one by one instead of making one sentence, because hackers could take advantage of that. So we do it this way instead. So if everything checks out here, then we are good to go. If not, this is just going to continue, and then we will return the error that we have. Okay, so in this case, for example, if this wasn't correct, it means no email was found. So we could still put an else statement here like this to tell people that error is equal to, we concatenate, so a dot equals no such email was found, and then we put our break tag like that, semicolon, and then I can copy this error thing and do the same here and say if password is equal, then we are good. If not, then wrong password. Wrong password. So here we're just going to say wrong password. Now for security purposes, you could simply, instead of telling the user whether it's a wrong password or wrong email, you can simply say wrong password or email on both occasions to become a little bit more vague, so that they don't know which of the two is wrong, because some hackers could simply keep trying until they get something that actually works. But for you that is developing to see which of these two actually didn't work, it's better to be specific in this instant. All right, so if this is correct, then what we do is we return, we do something here. Let's create what is called a session, or let me say create session data. Okay, so I'm going to add some session data here, and I'm going to explain what this is in the next video, so just bear with me here. I'm going to say session like so. Now session is just like this post. It's created by PHP, so it's a global variable, meaning it can be accessed from anywhere in your system, in any class, in any function, and so on. So this is where we're going to keep the user's ID. So we know that in this row there's a user ID, there's a username, and so on and so forth. So we want to keep those things in the session. So in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want the user ID. So I'll create a location in memory called session user ID, and I'm going to say is equal to, and get it from here, row user ID, like that. So we're getting the user ID from the row and adding it to the session. Now, in order for session to actually work, we need to create something called session. We need to run a function called session start. So now, instead of running the function from here, we're going to run it in the login page that has the HTML at the top here. We're going to say session start like this. So once you do that, then you are able to use the global variable session. And the reason we're using this global variable is because this variable is available no matter which page you've opened, as long as it's the same browser. So I'm going to explain a little bit about this in the next video, but so far so good. This is all we can do for this function right here. So when the evaluate function is called and the data is passed in from here, it's going to read the values, create a query, and check if the email exists. If it does, read from there, and then check if the password is correct. And if it's correct, create a session data that we need to authenticate the user, or else send an error. Okay, now in order for us to try this, we need to create a user and do the whole step from creating a user to logging in and then going to the profile page. All right, so we're going to do just that in the next video.